Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our third town hall for racial justice. I would like to ask before we start that if you already do not have your microphone muted, do so now to ensure that we can minimize the amount of background noise and stay focused on our presenters for tonight. We are really happy to have with us Superintendent Rafe, members of the district leadership team, as well as members of the Board of Education tonight. My name is Jackie Markle, and I am the Assistant Director of Equity and Inclusion for Olentangy Local Schools. With me tonight, we have Heather Cole, District Diversity Coordinator, who will be co-facilitating this meeting, as well as Curriculum Supervisor of RTI, Morgan Nagel. Morgan will be participating in the chat feature and helping to answer questions and provide additional information to you that will come up in that chat feature as we're hearing from the public participants. We are really grateful for all the public participants that will be speaking tonight. I believe we have 14 individuals that will be kind of sharing thoughts and ideas to help to move us forward. So thank you for that. We would really be remiss if we did not start with talking about the Dear OLSD movement and sort of some of the context for this town hall. While this town hall has really been in the works for many weeks, and something that, with George Floyd's murder was something that we have planned and wanted to bring to you tonight, the Dear OLSD movement is really something that needs to be acknowledged. It needs to be the place for us to start. And we are really proud of that movement that has been sparked by our very own students, by our very own alumni. And it has also led to additional, student and parent advocacy pages, petitions, and groups that have come up on Instagram and other places to really give a voice and experience to needed change on behalf of our students. And, although it is really difficult to put into words the pain that it feels to read those words and to learn of these experiences. I really speak on behalf of our equity and inclusion team to say that we are proud of their courage to speak out, that we are continuing to read the letters and the content of these pages daily, and that we will continue to listen and learn from them. We know that our students deserve better, and we will be working tirelessly to ensure that conversations are initiated, plans are developed, and changes are made to address these experiences. We have since reached out and initiated communication with members of Dear OLSD, and we hope to work in conjunction with them, as well as with other students, community members, and staff members to identify action items for immediate and long-term work. We would also like to note that the district leadership has approved a full-time teacher on special assignment with the title of District Diversity Coordinator, exactly like the one that Heather Cole holds, except this newly created position will be a full-time role. The position actually posted last Tuesday, and we have already begun undertaking the interview process. We hope to be able to make a recommendation to the Board of Education in the coming week or two in terms of who will fill that role. So the district leadership team and the Board of Education, they have really recognized that the scope of this work is massive, and that if we want to see the progress that we are truly striving for as a community, that additional resources in the area of equity and inclusion were needed and will continue to be needed. So we are thrilled to add this position. And we know with their support that we will be able to place additional resources behind professional development, curriculum integration projects, recruitment, hiring, and retention initiatives, as well as expanding our community and student collaboration. So with that, we wanted to kind of take a brief moment to share with you a couple of the plans that are already in the works for the upcoming school year. And we've just identified 4 of those here tonight to kind of talk through. The first one is around professional development. During the school year, our staff members have the opportunity to engage in professional learning in a variety of formats. Our most common forms of professional development have included self-selection courses that are offered for salary advancement and continuous learning opportunities, such as through our Olentangy Professional Development Academy. We also host building level professional development opportunities. One of the most common forms for that is book studies, as well as we have 3 district sponsored professional development days that are provided throughout the year. This year, we are going to be focusing our district-wide professional development for 2020 on the topic of anti-racism and sense of belonging. So what that means is that all of our staff, certified, administrative, classified, will receive training around topics such as implicit bias, explicit and implicit racism, microaggressions, as well as other topics. So this is an extremely important initiative for us. We will be focusing on the language that we're using to have these conversations, the practices that we're using to engage colleagues as well as students, and age-appropriate ways to teach and lead for anti-racism. So we want to assure you that this will be a collaborative process. It will involve stakeholders at all levels that are contributing to the formation and development of these sessions. We encourage you to stay connected to the district communication to learn more about these opportunities. The second commitment this coming year will be ensuring that Black History Month is visible, highlighted, and celebrated in every building across the district. This will involve resources for integrating not just the struggles and oppression, but the resistance, achievements, and contributions of African Americans. And it is important to us that while we work to ensure that this month is expressly dedicated to Black history, that we know that the integration of Black history will not and cannot be relegated to a single month. Rather, this will be part of our students' ongoing learning throughout the year. So we will be working with administrators, diversity liaisons, and building leadership staff to support what that looks like. In addition to Black History Month, we are also working on collecting resources and supports for integrating learning during all Heritage Months into our buildings. Having said that, the third commitment is that we will be undertaking a multi-year curriculum project where we'll be working with teams of teachers at every level and content area to identify entry points for diversity, what's missing in terms of history, representation, and voice, where is fruitful ground for more integration, and what resources we can use to support us with that. This collaborative project will happen, as I said, over a multi-year period, and we also plan to involve stakeholders, parents, community partners, and students in that process as well. Lastly, to note here tonight is our Student Equity Steering Committee. So this is a group of high school students that actually was started this year in the winter, beginning of springtime. And we're only able to have 2 meetings prior to COVID with the students, but this collaborative effort will continue to expand throughout the 2020-2021 academic year and beyond. This committee is currently comprised of a diverse cross-section of our student body, with currently 4 high school students representing each building. Students in this group are growing their capacity for leadership in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thus far, we have really worked on building culture, strong relationships, and honest respect in the group, but we see the students as leaders as a part of collaborative planning process, and we will continue to empower them as agents of change within our building. Not only is one of our goals to continue this, but also to expand it well beyond 4 participants, and also to start a similar committee for middle school students in the upcoming year as well. So, in turning to tonight and the purpose for tonight, really our purpose is to listen to stakeholder ideas on actionable items that we can take to advance our goals of anti-racism, equity, and inclusion. It's important to us that you know the equity and inclusion team will not really be taking the stage tonight beyond this opening introduction because we really want this space to be for your voice and a place for us to listen. So we had a board meeting on June 25th. I apologize that this says listen to our upcoming meeting, but last week, myself, Superintendent Mark Rafe, and also our Chief Operations Officer, Todd Meyer, gave an update on our 3-year equity plan that was established in 2018. So I would definitely encourage you to go to the Board of Education website and to watch that if you have an opportunity to do so, to hear that update that was given. We also recognize that many of you here with us tonight have been vocal advocates for anti-racism for many years. You have shown up to our diversity committee meetings, board meetings, One Community, the superintendent's office, the principal's office, and so many other places to advocate for change. We are thankful for your voice, your efforts, and your spirit. For many others, this might be your first time tuning in, and you're just starting out on your journey to anti-racism, equity, and inclusion. If this rings true to your experience, we are happy to have you with us here tonight. It's a good reminder for all of us that, we are coming from many different entry points, but we have a common goal, and that is to make sure that our students feel safe, validated, and supported, to end the racism that our students are experiencing. And unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we were unable to hold this town hall tonight in person as we would have liked. But the topics that we're discussing today are just too important to be placed on the back burner until we can meet face to face. So please consider this town hall really as the first of many, many opportunities where we can continue to engage and collaborate with you to actualize the schools and district conditions that we would like to see for our students. We also recognize that while the focus of tonight's meeting is racial justice, that issues of identity and justice are intersectional and intertwined. We must make every effort to root out not only racism, but sexism, heterosexism, transphobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, xenophobia, ableism, and any other form of oppression that exists within our schools and our community. So for some ground rules for tonight, just a couple of quick ground rules. I'd like to go over with you, for those that are unfamiliar with the Microsoft Teams system, as I think for many of us, it's our first time. If you hover over your screen, this kind of bar here will pop up, and I wanted to go over some of the main icons to help you navigate the page. So this button here is for your camera. It's really entirely up to you whether or not you would like your camera to be on or off during the discussion. It's really what you're most comfortable with. Same thing for public participants. There's no obligation for you to have the camera on, but if you would like to, we would love to see your face. It's your comfort level. The microphone, as we've mentioned at the beginning, if you can please do your best effort to keep your microphone muted throughout the meeting to eliminate background noise. For public participants, before you take the stage, please remember to click that icon so that there is not a line through it so that we can hear your voice when you come to present. So that leads us to public participants. You will have 5 minutes to share your ideas with the group. We've done this so that we could try to hear as many voices as possible. There will be a timer on the screen that is set for 5 minutes to help you kind of guide and time yourself as you're going through kind of your comments that you have to share with us. So please look for that timer on screen. And lastly, this chat feature. So for the majority of you watching, this button, the chat feature is going to be a place for you to open up, see people's comments, add ideas, add questions and thoughts for consideration. So we would highly encourage you to engage and use that tool. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Heather Cole to talk about our community norms.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Important topics, important conversation, important that we're coming together. So we really want to just thank everybody for being here. I'm going to be talking about our community norms real quick, and then also the format for which it will repeat itself for each public participant. But the first community norm that we have is to listen with empathy and to seek to understand different viewpoints. So there's just so many common pitfalls that we can fall under with communication, like really communicating and connecting with people, particularly around topics that can be very personal and emotional and strong, right? And so I guess what we ask is that, try to have that narrative sort of down in your mind, but, put that to the back of your mind and really just kind of seeking to understand where the speaker is coming from. The second one is to challenge ideas and not people. So if we challenge the assumptions an individual might be making while presenting their ideas, rather than challenging the individual themselves, we found that to be really helpful. Another one is to engage with others by communicating on topic and in a professional, respectful manner. So like we said, you'll have the opportunity through the chat feature, and in that we just ask that all the comments stay professional and respectful. And to further kind of piggyback off on that norm is that really and truly attacks and profanity, whether they're written or spoken, we just can't tolerate because they do threaten the safety of our community at large. So thank you. And the way that this evening is going to run, sort of the, the format of it, is that there's going to be Each public participant will have about 5 minutes to speak. There's going to be 12 speakers this evening. And like Jackie said, we've placed a timer there on that main public participation page. So we hope that helps. We have a lot of ideas that we want to get to, but if you are like, almost finished with your thought and haven't finished that idea yet, you have like 10, 20, 30 seconds left, please make sure you don't cut yourself off. That is a guide, but because we do want to make sure that we honor everybody that signed up, but don't absolutely cut yourself off at 5 minutes if that is the case. We also want to make a note that each individual's comments that are provided this evening are their personal viewpoints and their personal suggestions. This is an open forum and all ideas are welcome, so long as they respect the community norms we just discussed. After the public participant speaks, then the equity and inclusion team will add comments as time permits. And so that will kind of be the follow-up. And then of course, we've talked about that the listening participant portion of it by you all engaging through that chat feature. In order for you to share your thoughts and your comments and your questions, whatever it might be. So at this time, our first participant we would like to invite to speak is Delisa Thomas. First, I would actually say before Delisa, if you don't mind, all of you that are speaking this evening, when I say your first and your last name, do not feel like you are hurting my feelings. I really need you to just correct me because I want to make sure that I am saying it the way it is supposed to be said. So please, if I say your name incorrectly before you go ahead and begin speaking, just correct me and then I will know. Thank you. I appreciate that. But Delisa Thomas, are you here and able to unmute your mic?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. We invite you to begin now.
Hi. So I just had a couple things. I really found everything here interesting, and of course, reading everything that's been sent out in the email updates to the school from the school district. For me, it's just really the diversity committee. So I noticed, and actually, I looked at the diversity committee and was reading your bios earlier in the year before all of this happened. And I noticed, not seeing anyone of color on the committee itself. So I think having, just other perspectives in regards to, different backgrounds and different experiences and, how, different ideas can be brought from having others added on the committee is one thing that I was definitely looking at. And then another one for me is the curriculum. So I know, some of the grade schools really don't have that social studies piece or that history piece. I guess with my son being in second grade, it's, not really there, although it's hit on throughout the school year. It would be nice just to kind of have that starting early on where, it's something throughout, their school, throughout the classroom curriculum that they're learning a little bit more about, the history and, maybe if it's a classroom where it's more theme based, if you guys are doing something like, I don't know, teaching them about some science project or something with math to kind of incorporate that in the curriculum with some type of history part of that being added would definitely be nice. And then to that also, with the Black History Month just being in February, instead of, just the standard being taught and learned about the Martin Luther King and the Rosa Parks and the Harriet Tubman. Yes, we all know, the three from, for Black History Month, but just if every day there's someone different other than, just the top three that everyone usually, will usually know off the top of their head. I think it'll be very interesting just to kind of, just make that whole month, someone different that, the students are learning about, and even the parents, something going out, to the parents about that would definitely be nice. And then, of course, for other backgrounds as well, with having guest speakers, just bringing someone in, every month, whether it's for a school assembly or, some type of festival. I know you guys bring in at my son's school, you brought in the Columbus Zoo, but if maybe, more guest speakers were brought in from all different backgrounds, to just kind of give that, little eye opener, or, the day in a life of would definitely be nice. But that's all that I had. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Delisa. Absolutely, about the diversity committee. We have many, many diverse families in that committee that really, from day one, when it was started in 2010, we have lifers, if you will, that have really put in a lot of hard work and dedication and insight and suggestions, recommendation items year after year. And so we always welcome new families to that opportunity. Like I said, there are currently many, many diverse families in that group as well. And so I'm glad that you brought that up. And to the curriculum opportunities, I think we're just very, very ready to get to work in that area to strengthen it, bolster it, listen to students' ideas about where they want to see changes, and listen to parents about where they want to see changes, and really be intentional about that. So it's an exciting initiative for sure. Multi-year, because it we want it to be across all grade levels and in all content levels. So it'll be a strong initiative. Thank you so much for your comments, Delisa. I did want to encourage the group, as each of the public participants are speaking, you are more than welcome to see, Bobby, thank you. Either, let someone know that you are agreeing, or add a related idea or a related question, or maybe you have a resource related to what they're talking about. And so the chat feature is also going to be curated as far as those suggestions and those ideas. So that's an important part of the evening. So we encourage you to take part in that. Is Carrie Galvin with us this evening? Carrie, we'll just give you a minute. Hopefully it's just about unmuting yourself. All of the public participants as well, you have the option to share your camera with us. And so, share your camera so that we can see you, or just the auditory is fine as well. Carrie, are you with us this evening at all? Talking about student involvement. Okay. I see that we have a student here with us in the chat bar. Sharika, thank you for the comment. I think that starting to include more complicated stuff to the curriculum is a great idea. Personally, I would love to see the time period after the Civil War, such as the war on drugs, and how that affected many communities of color, how those decisions had impact. Thank you very much, Sharika, for adding that. If we see that Carrie has joined us, we will make sure that we come back to her. Kevin Lloyd, are you with us this evening? Kevin Lloyd, hopefully, if you could just unmute your mic. And again, we can always come back. Angelica Morris, are you here with us?
Yes.
Okay, are you ready? We're a little ahead of time, but are you? Thank you so much for joining us. You can go ahead and begin, Angelica.
Okay, I've been part of the District Diversity Committee for a little bit, and so I know we talk about different things coming up, and I was happy to see that it was mentioned that there will be training for all staff. with regard to anti-racism and inclusion. And I was wondering, is that training going to be required, or is it going to be a requested or an encouraged training? I think requesting and encouraging it is great, but unless there is more of a mandate, I don't know that you're going to get some of the people who feel uncomfortable or who just don't want to address it. And then my second question is about hiring. I've talked before on the diversity committee about hiring administrators who are people of color. And I know that the district has been making an effort to hire teachers of color, but I feel like the decision makers, it is important if the decision makers are also people of color, so that there can be people in the room when we're discussing curriculum, in the room when other things are being discussed, that could speak up and could encourage that more. I think everyone that's there now is, I think people that are there now care about the issue, but it's not the same as being a part of a group and understanding the perspective from that group. And I know that Mr. Warfield was there, but he recently left the district. So it just seems as if in the administration, whether it's administration for individual schools or administration for the district, you all are missing people of color, Black people, other people of color as decision makers. And I think that's impacting some of the things that are happening. And that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. To address your question about the training, you are right. There are many we provide a large amount of professional development options for teachers, for salary advancement and continuing education. And so those are elective. That format in particular, teachers self-select into courses. With the professional development that we are talking about undertaking this coming year is the format that's delivered through our district professional development days, 1, 2, and 3 throughout the year. And so then that would be throughout all of our buildings, K-12, preschool, through 12. So that helps answer that question. And I think you are exactly right. As far as the diversity, we need more diverse administrators, so that, exactly like you said, so that they can be a part of the decision making, be a part of the team in hiring more diverse staff, be a part of that team who looks at curriculum, and it does trickle down. So really and truly getting more diverse staff in those administrative positions is a very important focus for us as well. Thank you for sharing your comments with us.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. So you're saying that in the days, like you said, 1, 2, and 3 days that people can have the training, will it be recorded who took it and it's required? Or are you saying that you're just making it available in those days?
So we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, because we are a district with so many buildings, but it will be delivered to all of our staff, yes. Classified and certified. And so as far as, what does that look like? Do we have people at each individual building leading it? Do we have speakers coming in? Do we have pre-recorded pieces that the equity team does and the discussion we are going to, with the input of our teams in district, with the input of our students and with the input of more community members, we will make those decisions. But yes, it will happen cross district on those specified days where everyone it's a teacher work day to be in sitting and listening and engaging in professional development in your building. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you for clarifying. And with the hiring, is there something specific that will be done?
We will certainly be looking at every avenue that can strengthen and bolster the work that we currently do. you are right, we have had a focus on hiring diverse staff, but we've also had a very big focus on hiring administrators as well. And so, our efforts, we just, in every way we can, we will be bolstering what we're currently doing. Much more intentional. And you know what, that again, that's an avenue that, we can, what's been nice throughout these community town halls, and also just personal emails, if people don't want to be speaking in front of a large group of people, is that people are coming up and saying, I'm really interested in the student voice piece. Please make sure that you reach out to me for this. I'm really interested in the professional development piece. Can I help you work on this? And so we're making sure that when that time comes, they are specifically aware of those opportunities. As far as hiring, people that are particularly interested in those avenues. That way we can reach back out to you and make sure that we have all of the ideas on the table that we haven't already tried to add to that plan, that yearly plan that we update, to bolster those efforts moving forward. Thank you, Angelica. I appreciate the clarifying questions as well. I hope those helped. And it looks like we have a team here, Ava and Maddie Burnham. Are you both available? Ava and Maddie Burnham. They were going to be talking about Patriot Period and the zero tolerance policy for staff. I will say, let's see, is Carrie Galvin able to hop on here, or Kevin Lloyd? Either one of those public participants, are they available? Okay. Ishba Cox, are you with us this evening?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
We encourage you to begin.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity to share. And appreciate the format and leadership that we have going on to talk about these matters. I wanted to start by sharing a personal experience. I grew up in rural Alabama, and I remember, and speaking about the law enforcement, I remember my experience as a teenager, first getting my license and driving maybe a little bit recklessly, speeding at times. And because we had great leadership within the law enforcement and great relationships within our community, the law enforcement chief would flash the lights, and then at a different time, we'll meet my parents and say, I saw your son going about 10 miles per hour over the steep speed limit. Just want to get him to slow down. But because we had a relationship, we had community involvement and connection, they were able to do that. And many of my friends within the community experienced the same thing. And so I wanted to start off by saying that they knew our names, they knew our siblings, and knew our friends. We had a relationship with them. And so I'm proposing that we have some kind of transparent dialogue within our district. It could be very local, very intimate, with law enforcement and students of color. I mean, we can make it as small as we need to, so we can discuss the issues that we're facing. We must face this. We can't run away from this. I'd love to see Black and white law enforcement or other ethnicities within the law enforcement representatives in the same room, so that we can hear everything that needs to be heard, so they can hear from us our concerns, so we can hear from them their concerns. I personally have concerns for our young Black people specifically, and I can see this in my mind. Young student being pulled over, and they don't know what to do. They're scared to death because of the things that they've seen on TV, things that they've seen in the media, maybe things that they've already experienced. And so maybe perhaps getting both parties, all of these parties, leadership within the district, faculty and staff within the district, law enforcement within the district, young people within the district in the same room and just start talking about what we're facing. And I think I'd love to see something like that. I believe that an open dialogue could be a good starting place. Town hall format, intimate setting, as I mentioned before. Every local school could have one of these, several of these. I mean, it could be broken down as small as we need it to be. But what I've seen and witnessed within our school with Deputy Martin, I've seen the relationship that he has with our students and the connection, just the nonverbals, just watching him from a distance, interacting with our students locally at Orange High School. You can see that that relationship has made an impact within our community. And I would love to see the same thing with folks who we may not know, but start to build and communicate and build a relationship with law enforcement and young people and people within our Olentangy community. I'd love to see that. Thank you for the time.
Ishba, thank you so much for that idea. I would love to see that as well. I think, you know, when you say we must face this and not run away from this, that is that's key. And I think that both sides can be scared, you know, or have concerns. And so to listen to those concerns and to hear each other out and to put faces to, you know, the situation, I think would be very, very powerful, because relationships and connections are the biggest tool in breaking down some of these things that are happening that we want to make sure are eradicated. And so I think that is a fantastic idea. Thank you for offering that up for us tonight. I really appreciate that. Is Cody Parrish available and here with us this evening?
I'm here. Hello.
Hi.
Somewhere. There it is. Hi. There's a little bit of a typo. I'm actually wanting to discuss with you curriculum and representation.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know that. Sorry about that.
No problem. So one of the things that I was wondering about, and Angelica kind of hit it on the head for me a little bit, was what we're going to do in regards to tangibles for representation for our Black students. Because hiring is not always going to be the answer, because you can't control who wants to work here. I've worked in partnership with the district, and as a Black woman, it was a very unpleasant experience. And the reality is there are certain groups that don't want to work here. So we need something tangible in the meantime. And one of my suggestions is that we partner with Black businesses to come into the schools and to do some of the things that were suggested in regards to giving town hall meetings, doing mentorship, doing things so that our students see somebody who looks like them. They may not be a district employee, but they are someone who could connect with their stories and the things that they're going to. Because one of the things that, you know, my children have experienced in this district is the culture shock of not seeing people that look with you outside of your home. So I think that is something that we do need to prioritize addressing, as well as being intentional about curriculum choices that are being made, because my children on multiple occasions have come home with things that we've had to adapt or change, you know, so that they feel included, so that their history doesn't seem discounted. So I was wondering, what kind of things is the district doing in regards to ensuring that there's curriculum that's created by Black people, or by people who at least have done some type of evidence-based research on the things that our children need to learn? Because I know that we've brought Hassan Jeffries into the district a couple of times at these roundtables. And while I've enjoyed those roundtables quite a bit, the tangibles, we didn't really walk away with very many tangibles, but he does have an actual curriculum. So what are we going to do to incorporate those types of curriculums across the board, not just in parts of the district where there are mostly Black, well, not mostly, but where there are more Black students, but across the board, because this is a culture issue within our district, and it's not just one section or the other, it's the entire district. So I just would like to know what we're doing moving forward to have some tangible change.
Is that the end of your comments? Do you want me to? Okay. Hassan Kwame Jeffries actually had, was wonderful enough to work with our very eager, very motivated, very passionate 8th grade social studies teachers across the district. So all of our 8th grade teachers across the district, using his curriculum and bringing that into their classes and their lesson planning. And so how, you know, I think we brought him in 2 years ago, and they just said, there's no way this is enough. And so we brought him in last year. And so they really jumped on board, and as much as they could get, and they've really been empowered to kind of roll with it from there. He sort of got them started, got them on his sound research-based structure, and then, you know, the theory and how to integrate that masterfully, and then the teachers kind of just ran with it. So we're very excited to continue to do partnerships like that, where we're bringing in experts, and then also empowering the teachers to say, okay, how can we change up and strengthen the message and the voices that we are including in what we're teaching. Let's see here. He's also leading like a difficult conversations K-12 Institute at OSU that we are a part of as well, that teachers have the opportunity to engage in if should they choose. And then Jackie Merkel had come across an opportunity for teaching Black History Conference that's going to be happening at the end of July. And so she put it out to teachers, and we had over 35 teachers say that they were interested. And so we are sending over 35 teachers and our equity and inclusion team to engage in that virtual conference. It's a 2-day, two full days. We have a very nice cross section of elementary, middle, and high school teachers across different subject areas that organically signed up and elected to be in this process. And so with that commitment also comes a follow-up with the whole group at large to say, okay, how are we going to take these past 2 days that we've just been, you know, learning and growing, and how do we put that into an action plan? And then also, how do we share that with our colleagues, you know, above and below us? And then how else do we share with our team? And how do we make that more impactful, as impactful as we possibly can? So I hope that those comments helped answer that question. I see that Ariana Sarah, are you here with us this evening? Ariana Sarah. Carrie Galvin, I'll just kind of go back up and see if Carrie Galvin joined us yet, or Kevin Lloyd. If you did, you can just unmute your mic. There's a possibility we may finish up a little bit early this evening. Hassan Mohammed, are you here this evening to unmute your mic? Curriculum and, oh, that was Cody Parrish's. Hassan Mohammed. Okay, moving on. Anna Hincapie.
So that was close. It's Hincapié.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you. And my first name is Anna.
Okay.
So thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
and
Anna.
honestly, just for having this means a lot to me, having a student or students here. I was really hesitant before moving to this district because I am a social worker and my husband is a police officer. He's a Black police officer. I am Latina, and I had a lot of reservations about the district because, um, as we have heard tonight, and I know that in different conversations, it's not always been the case. And I'm so sorry if you hear my children in the background screaming. I'm alone tonight with them, so
No worries.
they're
I think we
playing.
can all understand.
Yes, so it's a topic that that is difficult, but it's something that is real. It's what's going on right now. That in this district, there's not a lot of diversity. So I appreciate everyone that has brought that up. It's hard for my children to see themselves in in being leaders if the leaders that are teaching them are not of their same race, or they don't look like them. My daughter has curly hair, and it's this thing where the research is there. We gravitate towards what we see, and the majority of what is seen in our district is not diversity. So that is something that I would like to um reinforce and say that I would really appreciate having that in different aspects from the people who are helping the students, the counselors, the social workers, mentors, the teachers. And I will say the teachers have been fantastic. Everyone is fantastic, but that does not um, dismiss the fact that diversity is important. And I question why it is so difficult for the district to have diversity in all of their schools. That's something that is painful for me. I'm not really sure what has been the case because I am new to the district. My daughter is in kindergarten, my son is 4, and I have a stepson who's in high school. So, those are just some things to be brought up. But for me, something that really came up was teaching students how to engage in hard conversations by providing opportunities for this to happen through either volunteer work or through creating situations where they can experience this. Because learning to engage in these conversations is important for them to have when they're faced with these difficulties. Because when emotions run high, thinking runs low. And things that I've heard about the district is that sometimes it's not addressed appropriately. It's either kind of pushed under the rug, or I mean, that's what some people have told me they feel like. And so being able to talk about this without just judging a person. And so teaching students is one of my main ideas, is teaching the students and teaching the parents on how to do this. One of the things that I would like to do is also, or that I would like to bring up, is using local business owners to mentor students. And I think this idea was also brought up, and assist in providing spaces and oh, hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Something happened on my end.
It's okay. You were local business owners, partnering
Yes.
with local business owners. Thank you.
Sorry.
No.
So partnering with local business owners where they can either provide the spaces or resources to allow conversations to happen. And I was thinking of something that I helped build out in Arizona, which is like a walk in their shoes sort of situation, where we build I was part of an organization, and I did volunteer work where we built these spaces where people could walk in your shoes. So having somebody experience what it feels like to have these specific things happen to you. I think that as person of privilege, it's difficult to really understand when something happens, why that would be offensive, or why somebody would think this is offensive. And so having a sort of walk in their shoes situation, and then having the conversations after that so that students can understand, would help build empathy in the students. And so for me, yes, having the adults having diversity, having all of this, and having the adults understand this, but how do we really engage the students, and how do we build all of this empathy into the students is one of the biggest things, because these are our leaders, these are our future leaders. This is who we need to teach. And I would like to take some of the workload off of teachers, because I know I work in a school myself, and I know that there's lots of things that are constantly happening, and that is being added for them. So having mentors, having parent help as well, and I'm sorry, I know my time is up. So having parent help as well would also help build that empathy within the homes, and could bring that impact into the community.
Thank you so much, Anna. As far as like, I agree with you 100% as far as teaching the students how to engage in these conversations. And I think part of that will come with our adult professional development learning, because making sure that ensuring that all of the adults feel, providing the language to stop some of this hate talk, or, the what we're trying to eradicate in its tracks, to model the language we want to use, how to speak up in the moment and practice that language in the moment when it occurs in our classrooms. That modeling of that behavior, I think, can be our best tool in teaching and empowering students to do the same. And then explicitly teaching students how to have those same skills themselves. And it looks different depending on whether you're in a kindergarten classroom or whether you're in a 12th grade classroom, but it can be done to be those allies, to speak up for someone that is on the opposite end of hurtful language and hurtful words. And so having that education from the adult and the student perspective, I think, is a great idea, and really in track with what the district has for our plans for the year. So thank you so much. I noticed that there was a question about the branding. And so we have Krista Davis here, our communications director, that is going to be speaking to that directly. Krista, are you here with us?
I am.
Thank you,
Heather. Sure. I noticed in the chat box that there was a little bit of a conversation about the brand project. And so I offered to Heather and Jackie to jump in and share a little bit. Giving a quick overview, the district a year ago changed the district's overall brand. In April of 2019, we released that, and then we began the brand project phase 2, which addresses all of the 26 buildings that we have. And so we started in the fall with all 15 elementary schools, and worked with a brand project team from each school in conjunction with our brand agency that we've been working with from the start. And so each elementary will be rolling out a brand and a mascot in August, when we are starting whatever the new school year looks like. So that is in the works and ready to go and very exciting. But the next phase of phase 2 is addressing the middle school and the high school mascots. And so obviously the elementaries did not have any mascot to begin with, or any identity that they were using. Moving forward, the middle school and high schools obviously have that. And so our goal is to keep the names of each of the mascots, but address the Native American imagery that we have seen traditionally within our history in the district. And so for those of you who might not be familiar, that would be, everyone is going to have updated imagery, but specifically as it relates to the Native American imagery, that would be the Liberty Middle School Warriors, the Shanahan Middle School Scouts, and the Olentangy High School Braves. And so I saw specifically a comment regarding the Braves, and we are going to keep the Braves, and I see the question in the chat box, how do you keep the Braves would change the picture? And that is why we're working with experts to do so. For those who are in that high school, Principal Griffiths has really worked hard on creating an acronym of character traits related to the letters of the word brave and talking about being a brave individual. And so that will be the focus, and the goal is to work with a brand project team that's comprised of students, staff, parents, and community members in that attendance area, and working together to create what makes sense to move forward with something that is more representative. And so I think, and I see that some people don't agree with that, and I completely understand that. I think one of the things that we will be launching into is a discussion about what does that mean? How can that represent the school community and the students that attend that school? So we haven't made it to that part yet. And so we will be spending a lot of time talking about that. Right now, we are talking with just the middle school brand project teams about each of their unique mascots. And so similarly, Scout and Warrior, we have talked about how we can change those images. Actually, we've talked about not only the fact of, the Native American aspect, but also the gender representation, skin color, overall representation, so that the students in that school feel like that mascot or that image or that whatever that thing is represents who they are and what they feel like.
Krista, thank you so much for lending your comments on that. We really appreciate it, and I know that that was helpful to some of our community members moving forward. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely.
Ashrita Ushasri.
Yes, hello. I'm here.
Please tell me, did I pronounce it correctly?
It's Ashrita Ushasri.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to everyone who spoke before me. My name is Ashrita Ushasri, and I'm an alumna of Olentangy High School, class of 2018. And I'd like to speak from my experience as a South Asian student. 13 years at Olentangy has provided me with many educational opportunities, but also many difficulties as a minority in race, culture, and religion. Looking back on my childhood, I can tell you for certain that it is not the ignorance of my peers that continues to weigh on me, but the inaction of my administrators, teachers, and staff members. I'm glad to know that Olentangy is working towards an anti-racist and anti-bias training for the future. The recent events led by the Black Lives Matter movement propelled me to reach out to former Olentangy teachers and even the college board about the lack of truthful education on systemic racism. In pursuing a more inclusive curriculum, I have come together with over 30 other alumni and students representing 20 of the total schools in Olentangy, in order to address the issue of continued marginalization in our community. As the Student Association for Diversity, Inclusion, and Education, also known as SADE, we have drafted 12 initiatives for the district with specific action items. By now, many of the administrators at Olentangy must have received the Curriculum Revision Initiative, and along with the 11 other initiatives that we've drafted. In the past 2 years as a college student, I have learned a lot more about non-white history than ever before. And furthermore, I've had to undergo the hard work of unlearning the misrepresented version I was taught at Olentangy, which didn't really provide the full picture of systemic discrimination as it persists today. Ignorance cannot be unlearned without an authentic and accurate education. Today, I'd just like to go over the points that SADE has created in order to revise the curriculum. First, we ask that our social studies and English classes abundantly include the primary sources of minorities, such as the written works of Audre Lorde, Malcolm X, and others. We also ask that the contributions and names of minority STEM professionals are celebrated, and that the impact of racism seen through health inequality are acknowledged in science and math classes. The COVID pandemic has shown that racial disparities continue to exist in our public health structures. We ask that the textbooks used in classrooms are re-examined in terms of the material on marginalized communities and the author's work. The content on American immigration stories must include the experiences of Asian, Latinx, and African immigrants, and not just European immigrants. We ask that the district invite guest speakers or compile material from leaders of respective religions in our community, especially for the 6th grade social studies world religion unit. As a Hindu girl, I can tell you that minority religions such as my own are misunderstood by many Olentangy parents, teachers, and students, despite the vibrant religious diversity that feeds our schools. Although there are many issues comprehensively identified in the SADI initiatives, I would like to end my talk today with this final point, that these goals are also implemented for elementary schoolers and onwards, because bias begins at such young ages. I believe it is the responsibility of educational institutions to address racial attitudes in children and to create an inclusive environment for all minority kids who do not deserve to be burdened with bigotry at such young ages. Education is critical to dismantling racism, but it's not the only step we must take, which is why I hope the district will take all 12 of SADI's initiatives seriously. We must work together to build a safer and more inclusive community for all minority students. Thank you so much for your time.
Shrita, thank you so much for your comments. I do want to say, I said this to someone the first evening, we've really appreciated the alumni presence in the community events that are happening and your commitment to standing with current students and putting forth what you did in that document, the SADI document, that was very thorough and planned out and comprehensive. And so I know that the equity and inclusion team is going to want to meet with you guys to hear your ideas and to really further that conversation. You are a very eloquent speaker, and it takes courage to, do the type of work in the many type of ways that you're doing it. And so really want to commend you for where you are and who you are and showing up how you are. So thank you so much for that. Looks like we have our last speaker at this time, Sarah Miller.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. So I am here as a community member, and my family moved to the district a few years ago. And about a year ago, I was talking to one of my friends who is Black about mine and my husband's interest to move to another district, because when our kids go to school, we really want them to experience what the world looks like and feels like besides who they are and what they look like. And he paused and he said, I know what you're saying and I understand, but my kids need allies and I need your kids here to be their allies. And that really shifted my perspective on where my family stands and what we can do in our community and what I want for my children. And so I really want to talk tonight about looking at this equity through a data lens. You can go ahead and go to my next slide. Because it really means asking the right questions. we can create programs, we can create initiatives, but if they're not reaching the right people, they're not reaching the right point. School districts are held and monitored based on the ABCs: attendance, behavior, and core academics. Every school answers to these on a state level for funding, for how they're performing, their community stakeholders, and taking a look at how our students of color are performing compared to their white counterparts, and really calling that thing a thing, and looking at those absentee rates, and then digging deeper and saying, what is going on in those students' lives? How are they experiencing school? Are they staying home because they don't feel safe? Do they feel like, are they taking more what my friend calls mental health days because she is tired from the bullying at school? And then we go into behavior and how are those disciplinary actions delivered? Who is delivering those? What biases might be presented in there? It is well known, the U.S. Department of Education has statistics that Black and brown students are more harshly punished for offenses than white students. They are given more and more severe consequences than their white classmates in the same school district, even in the same community. So it's not necessarily a disparity amongst different districts. It's comparing apples to apples. And because our Black and brown students are missing more school, whether it's because of bullying, because they're getting more repercussions, they're getting more suspensions, maybe they're getting in more fights because they are just at their last straw for how they're feeling and how they are experiencing school each and every day. Of course, they're going to do worse academically because they're not there to learn content, and the teachers will automatically get a bias towards them that you just don't care about school because X, Y, and Z. And then that leads to Black and brown students performing lower. And if you look at the data, Olentangy is definitely on par with that. The Black and brown students in Olentangy are not performing as well as their white classmates on their standardized tests. And I think what is even more alarming for me is that the state doesn't believe that they are able to. And so when you look at the Ohio standards for how white students should be performing or how Black students be performing, they're not the same, which I think Olentangy has the opportunity to step in and say, that's not enough for us. And we are here to do differently, and making sure that we are getting those supports to the right people. And so equity doesn't just mean getting services out there, but it also makes sure that the services are there for the students who need them, and the students who need them are taking advantage of them, that people are speaking up on their behalf to say, hey, come along with me. I see this in you and I see your potential and how great you can do. Let's make sure that you are tapping into these resources that are going to be the best fit for you, so that way you get to be set up for success when you are stepping outside the walls of our school district. Next slide, please. So now what? We know that we've got to ask the right questions to get the right answers. And it's more than just committees, it's more than visions. And the book clubs are great, but it doesn't really do a lot of action. We just sit around and we talk about things, and that's only a little piece of the puzzle. We've got to actually step outside our comfort zones and get uncomfortable to bring about action in our school district and in our community. Last slide, please. So my recommendations are to hire an external company to complete an audit. And that goes beyond, the curriculum. It goes towards, how are the authors for English classes? Who are we recommending to students to read? How are those conversations framed in classrooms? There was an article in the Atlantic a few years ago about kindness and how we want to raise kind kids, but we stop talking about being kind and we talk about, how was your test score? How many goals did you score at soccer practice? And we stop that conversation on character, and we need to bring character back into the classroom of, how are you kind to somebody who looks different than you today? How are you being inclusive to your classmates? Making sure that resources are equitable for all students, That means transportation. So if some students don't have access to transportation, making sure that there is transportation access to them, that they're offered at times that are right for the students and the families. Refine disciplinary practices to really make sure that we're removing bias and making sure that those who are handing out disciplinaries are understanding the consequences for handing out unfair consequences to the students. And I think, some of our friends talked about this on here. Set goals for diversifying staff and leadership. We can say, hey, we reached a 25% diversity rate, but if they're all entry level, we've left out the leadership portion of the district. So it's really important that we set goals from the bottom all the way to the top on what we're going to do. And creating a sustainable plan and a timeline for holding the district accountable. Heather, I think you've had a rebuttal for everything somebody's asked or brought to the committee this morning or this evening. But we need timelines, we need hard evidence, and really knowing how are we going to be successful. Racial justice is definitely at the forefront right now, but what happens in 6 months? What happens in 12 months from now? Because we know this is not the first time our Black and Brown students have spoken up in Olentangy to say, hey, we are experiencing racism firsthand from staff and students, and what can we do better? And I think Olentangy can be that district that sets the standard, and then other districts can follow Olentangy's lead. But really, we've got to figure out what we need to do differently and then learn how we can do differently.
Thank you, Sarah. You have a lot of great ideas. I love how you shared them, and again, comprehensive as well. I can tell you that we absolutely do plan on putting forth that that plan, and with timeline pieces on there, and communicating how the progress that we're making and how we know we're reaching our goals. But I will say that putting that plan together is what will take possibly more time than we want, because we want to make sure that we're including as many stakeholders, as many experts, like bringing around the people that need to be here at the table to make sure that that plan, that we're getting it right. And of course we will make changes along the way, and of course we will make adjustments to that plan however we need to make it even better. But I do want to say, and just the opportunities throughout the summer and into the fall where we can harness more student input and harness more community input, and really pull together some of our community organizations and some of our community experts and things like that. Like I said, to make sure that that is a strong plan, and we want to do it that way because we recognize that this work is too important to just put some of these ideas together here and just start working. Like, it really needs to be very intentional, very well laid out. And so to answer that piece of the question, I hope that helps. Jackie, if you don't mind kind of hopping in here, because I know at the beginning, Sarah had talked about just, the academics piece and supporting our students in the courses that they were choosing and things like that. And I know that you've done a lot of work in that area. So maybe you can share a little bit about that piece that you're working on.
Yes. Sorry. I just stopped screen sharing. I apologize. Give me 1 second. Okay, hopefully I'm back. Yes, Sarah, I just wanted to say thank you for your very thoughtful laid out ideas that you shared. And as I was sitting here thinking about and reflecting on your kind of 3 areas that you outlined of attendance, of behavior, of academics, it's just really resonating for me and a large portion of the work that we are undertaking as a district with Morgan Nagel at the lead around response to intervention or multi-tiered systems of support, and looking at how do we really build that equity data literacy for our teachers, for our administrators, to help them to parse out and get at, those deeper questions of exactly what you're saying, and doing so with proactive solutions in a preventative framework, looking at this as a system rather than like a referral model for students as soon as they start struggling. And so, I see this as an opportunity for us to continue to engage cross-departmentally in this work. So engaging with our student well-being department, looking at, mental health, how is that playing into attendance? How is that playing into, the impact of racial trauma and the aftermath of bullying and harassment incidents, and how we're seeing that show up in attendance data, behavior data, as well as academic performance and the impact of that trauma. Also looking at, as you mentioned, discipline data, and, really drilling down deeply into looking at, if we have overrepresentation of certain racial groups, students with certain disabilities, different genders, as a part of that data. And, what are we going to do moving forward to address that before, those disparities and those gaps occur? I'm looking at academics and thinking about, one thing that our equity and inclusion team has undertaken is an equity audit around our AP courses to ensure that there is equity in access to enrolling in those AP courses, and that we're matching students with courses where they feel they will be successful, engaged, confident in doing so, and that they have the supports to succeed. So, seeing how we can expand that to look at our college credit plus options, how we can look at students enrolled in our mentorship programs, looking at students who are enrolling in courses at the Delaware Area Career Center. And then, to a comment that was brought up in the chat from Stephanie Klupinski, looking at, our gifted data as well, and looking at overrepresentation, underrepresentation of racial groups, students of differing abilities, within that subset, looking at our OST data, and just developing this confidence, awareness, the skills and tools to be intersectionally analyzing our data with an equity lens. And so, with Morgan at the helm, and I know her passion for this is something that we have undertaken a lot of data conversations this summer already, and talking about where this work can go. And she's an incredible support and advocate for this work. So I know that she will, be very open to listening to all of these ideas and helping to spearhead these initiatives moving forward. I also wanted to speak really quickly, Sarah, to your point about character education and just the importance, echoing that, agreeing with you on that piece. And one thing I thought could be valuable, just to make our community aware of, for those of you who may not be aware, we recently undertook a project to gather feedback from families around, what are some of the dispositions and the characteristics that we want to see and we expect of Olentangy graduates, beyond academics, because academics is just one very small piece of this more holistic puzzle of the type of experience we want to create for our students. And so out of that thought exchange feedback, we were able to craft a document that really spoke to what the community values around those dispositions. And the 4 words that really rose to the top were ideas around being purposeful, being kind, being resilient, and being curious. So looking at, what does that mean? What are the different aspects and dimensions of each of those, and how do we actualize that, put that into practice, and what does that look like? So I see this as a part of an ongoing conversation, and I think that the ideas that you have put forth here, we just really appreciate, and I think continues to elevate that conversation to the next level. So thank you so much for closing us out on that note. And I'm going to turn it back over to Heather to close us up.
Okay. I think one of the things we wanted to make sure is not leaving the call and saying, okay, what now? We want to stay. We've heard from many, many, many community members. You know what? I'm sorry. Let me put my camera on here. Okay. heard from many community members, many staff members, many administrators, many parents, and just everyone, okay, how can I help? And how can I get involved? And like I saw in the chat box over there, we are the experts. We are the people that should be, in on these decision making. And that is exactly what we want. We want you to be a part of the process moving forward. So we just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is just a starting point for the ongoing discussion and involvement and engagement opportunities that we are going to be providing. You may have seen that because we had so much interest, because we have the 200 person capability on our teams, that we wanted to add 2 additional virtual town halls so that we can get as many families and as many community members involved in this process, in this initial process as possible. So we'll be working on developing a plan of action for 2020 and beyond based on all of these opportunities, all of the community feedback throughout the summer and well into the school year. We're aware of the survey that Dear OLSD linked to their Instagram page, indicating the changes that they would like to see in the district, as we are also aware of other student and parent advocacy groups, which one of our presenters here shared this evening, as far Sadie is the name that another one goes by. And so we really hope to be able to collaborate with all of these groups around their ideas and take steps to make those necessary changes. With our community at large, we hope to have roundtable discussions hosted at the district level to continue collaborating with our stakeholders around what our plans could and should look like moving forward. Again, it will look different than what we would want it to be. Having those face-to-face round table discussions, likely. It might be virtual, but nonetheless, we want to make sure that we have them. As typical of a diversity committee meeting structure, we'll be providing the collected ideas that were shared here through both the public participant format as well as the chat feature, and we'll be collecting those and having our ongoing dialogue with Superintendent Rafe and making sure that we have that continued discussion with him as well. We also wanted to just talk about the ways to stay involved in this work. Again, there will be many more opportunities. One way to ensure that you get all of the messages and all of the opportunities and really specific pointed work would be our diversity committee. We started that diversity committee in 2010 with 60 families. And so it's grown, and I think I mentioned earlier, just have a lot of strong family members there that have really given us some great feedback, and it's an opportunity to do that, to share your concerns, to also bolster different areas and make those recommendations to Superintendent Mark Rafe. And so if you are interested in that diversity committee, please reach out to me directly. My email is heather_cole@olsd.us. We can get you on the email list, and we can make sure that that you can get involved in that way. Another way is to just keep learning and collaborating with us and with those in your community. One of the ways to do that is through our Juneteenth calendar that we had put out. Those resources, I think it's like 2 or 3 a day. It was our hopes there that you could have ongoing learning opportunities in a variety of formats, so that you could do personal reflections, you can do partner reflections. I think those were on Sundays. There were small group opportunities to get a small group together, to have these conversations and to engage in these difficult, challenging conversations and do it with grace and ease with one another. Extending out to your extended family and friends, but then also looking inward with your immediate family members and your young children that are with you as well. And so we hope that some of those resources can be helpful to you. And then lastly, everyone has different ways that they want to be involved. And so if you aren't if a team's meeting and talking, to a collective group is not something that you're interested, but you just want your voice heard and you have ideas and you want to provide them to us, please just reach out to anyone on the equity and inclusion team. Our emails are going to be on the ending slide there. And we're always open to conversation, to meeting up with each other, whether that's on, virtually or face to face. And so please don't hesitate to reach out in that way as well. So at this time, I'd like to end our evening with a quote. Marianne Williamson was the person that said this. In every community, there is work to be done. In every nation, there are wounds to heal. In every heart, there is the power to do it. And so we want to thank you so much for participating this evening, and we really look forward to future work together. Thank you so much.